Hello, we're back. Back to work. Welcome everyone to Handelabra Steam Sentinels workshop stream every Friday afternoon, except over the holidays, where I did not do very much work or any work. So, but we're back this week. And we've been mostly working on Spirit Island, but of course, Fridays are for Sentinels Workshop. So that is what we're up to today. Welcome everyone in the chat. Oh, thanks Dart of Truth for the sub upgrade. We have Dart of Truth and Trident and Gaming Master, Jake, Frenzy. Look at all the great people and even more. Great to have you back. Hope you have had a good holiday. Hope everyone is safe if you're in the States from the madness occurring there. But yeah, everyone at Handelabra is safe, but as you might imagine, a little stressed. I'm in Canada, so it's more of like your crazy neighbor doing stuff. But yeah, so let's get into workshop time. So where were we, you might wonder? Yeah, it's been a week. Let's say that. Last time we added that screen to show what mods you have loaded and stuff, so we might do a bit more on that. We released the initial engine documentation. There's still lots more to do on that, but the initial version of that document was put out before Christmas. So if you haven't checked that out, you can find it under the official documentation links card here, and take a look at that. We'll be continuing to flesh that out with more information as well. But one thing I wanted to do today, at least at first, was getting into the placeholder images. So we've shown a bit of these before. Basically, if you don't have artwork for your mod, we're gonna provide some artwork that will show up, so it won't be just blank. And so that requires, some work on our side to both create that artwork and integrate it so that it will show up. Jennifer has done a lot of artwork creation. So here we have a Unity project, which is very similar to what we have for our regular DLC, like Oblivion or whatnot. And it's set up in the same way as if it's a DLC. So we've got Hero 0, and their cutouts, Hero 1 and their cutouts, and Hero 2 and their cutouts, as well as the start of game, graphics, and the yes/no dialogue. And there's going to be more, but this is more, maybe not more heroes, but more like card art and villains and stuff like that. So these are what we want to basically have loaded in automatically if your mod doesn't have artwork. So what this, in our DLC thing, we have a way to build it into an asset bundle, and that has made this file here. If you've messed around with Sentinels, you know that there'll be these .unity 3D files. These are asset bundles. There's one for the core game that's included in the game, and this will be included in the Steam version, the placeholder one. And then there's ones for each expansion, Infernal Relics, mini packs, and so on. They have different builds for different platforms too, because that's how they work. But yeah, so we're gonna be using that to load those graphics in. So if I pull up my mod right now, it does have some graphics. So I'm actually just gonna make it so those don't load. I have a game set up here with Migrant Coder, as well as the bunker variant, Wayward Bunker there. And so these have that Unity graphic and the other placeholder there that I just put in there. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that those don't load. So maybe I'll just like disable all the cutouts entirely by just doing like this. Rename that, and then, oh yeah, dev stream. Yeah, I started early, because why not? So now if we load this up, we should not see any artwork. Well, card art is still in there in the atlases, but yeah, no cutout. And we log out errors, so mod makers can see those and realize what they need to set up. So yeah, what I want to do basically is once we try to load a graphic, if it's a mod and it doesn't find one, then use the placeholder is kind of the idea. So that's kind of the approach that I'm looking at. So let's pull up the Sentinels project, and let's go back to where we have the graphics loading. So like, I think UI character panel or character cutout. Right? No, don't open book controller. It's for the page flipping. Yeah, so like here. Load textures. Yeah, so here's like load cutout texture. So we should, yeah, actually this is the log that we're seeing here. Did not find texture. And we just hide it. So either here or in here is where I want that to say, okay, it didn't work, let's try doing it again. So basically in here is where it's like, load the texture using this information. Right, so in here it tries to find, if it's a mod, it like loads it from the mod. If it's not, it loads it from whatever, loads the asset bundle. So I think it's the one level up from here. So this, either this level right here or this level right here is where we want to say, if it failed and it's a mod, try the placeholder, right? So basically, if it's mod content, and I guess if it fails, so not success. And also, I think for cutout specifically, we don't care about effects textures. We're not going to be using effects textures in the placeholder. So if it's a regular texture, then let's try using a placeholder. So instead of these things, well, we're going to say load texture. Right, we need to have a new path as well. So choose cutout based on the name. For right now, we'll just like have a fixed name, and then we'll do the randomization bit. So interesting. This takes a card. Yeah, there's all this logic around this. So just wondering, yeah, how much do we care about identifier versus not identifier? I basically want a version of this method that can just take string for the identifiers instead of the definition. So let's do that. Because I can sort of going through paths in my head here, but what I want to do here is be able to get a new path by saying hero 0, right? I just want to be able to like pass in strings because the placeholders don't actually have real cards. So we need to have a way to call something like this. But we don't have a version of this method that actually does that. It actually like yeah. And I guess there's the damaged logic is sort of part of that. So I think we need to have a version of this that just takes identifiers, which it can because it just uses the identifiers. It doesn't use anything else, right? It uses the identifier there. It uses just the identifier. Oh, I think. No, maybe not. It needs to know if it's a hero or not. Right, or if it's an environment. Right, so we need to like sort of make some different ways to call these methods because we don't actually have a definition for the placeholders. Okay. So that's easy enough to do. So what we want to do is just basically pull this out. And then change this to, so we'll still have the same thing, so we don't have to change other things. But we can change this so that we can say this is a string, character card identifier. Basically just pull out these variables and into the parameters. And then pass them through. So the deck definition, right, so I think we want kind of deck type. Yeah. That's actually what we want. We also need the deck identifier. So we want to, instead of this one deck definition parameter, we want to do this. Deck kind and then deck identifier. Then the root folder can just be like is deck kind. Of course, the funny thing is it does all this logic and then it's like, is it an environment? I'm going to ignore all of that logic. We can clean that up a little bit. So then we can say if deck identifier and, special cases are a bit of the bane of mod stuff, but we'll get there. This is looking for a villain. Oh, I guess it's either villain or villain team, right? What was this checking? Is villain. I think that's true for villain and villain team. Yeah. So we got this got to be. I guess we can just say if it's non-hero. And yeah, this logic actually can be right up at the top. If deck kind equals environment, do this. Except that's not going to work, but otherwise, do everything, literally everything else. There's no need for all that logic to happen for environment 1. Deck identifier. Okay, so this is all a lot of refactoring just to get to almost where we want. Now we can actually call it. Character card identifier. Deck kind. Deck identifier. Turn kind is split. Is damaged. Is effects. And effects text. Okay, so we still have this. But I think we can just actually do that here. Like basically move this this way. Yeah. And then we actually never call this version for environments. And that's okay. All right, so no, I don't want to become famous. Go away. Spammers, come on. I'm already famous, don't you know? All right, so now we have a version of this that we can call with just strings and stuff, which is what I want. And make sure I didn't break too much. 4 errors, but that's just, I shouldn't be trying to compile there because of weird errors that happen. All right, we have, right, oh, this is my sort of sample code. So we needed to know that the second parameter is that's the deck identifier we need. We're just gonna throw in hero right now. So it's just, this is the new method we made, so we can call it with simpler parameters. And then we can do this, and we can say placeholder. Right, so placeholder cutout path. So we're going to try to load it from the placeholders now. I don't know that this is going to work because I don't think it knows that the placeholder is I'm not sure if it knows how to load that. Let's see. Let's try this. It might work. I think it might need it might not know. It might be looking in the place where the expansions are instead of in the place where. Should be looking in the same place where the core bundle is. So. So maybe it's looking in both places. Yeah, no, it's not working. Okay. But we should be able to see an output log saying something like it's looking for cutouts, heroes. Yeah, that is the path where it should be, but it's saying I couldn't find the asset bundle. So this would be looking for like a DLC one, but it's actually going to be bundled into the game build itself. So that is going to be in a different place. Yeah, so the core is in streaming assets, whereas if it's not the core, then it's somewhere else. So we need to actually do this. So, okay. So we want the placeholder. We're just going to make it know how to load it. We don't have a string like that either. So if it's the core or if it's the placeholder asset bundle identifier. And we may as well back here use it properly. No. Yeah. Let's use that constant. Okay, so now we should actually, it should work now based on what I'm seeing. So we'll see. Cool. That is the placeholder. And we could change it to use, just as a quick verification, use hero 1. We should get hero 1 instead. Cool. All right, so that, and it's actually used the same, it's using the same one for the bunker image too. So that is excellent. So what we want to do is make sure it's going to load, obviously, heroes for heroes and villains for villains and stuff. Maybe I'll actually make a new game with all mod content so we can see that things go differently or whatever, right? So we have our the cauldron in here still. That and let's grab migrant coder and the bunker variant and sure fanatic. And let's grab an environment from, just get everything mod content, it'll be easier to. Yeah, so everyone's got the same picture now because it's just exactly set. And I'll just get to the hero turn to make it load quicker. Oh yeah, even the villain is loading the hero graphic. So everyone is loading the hero graphic right now, right? Because that's what we're just saying. Just always load that. So that's funny. So yeah, so basically the deck kind is going to be the character card dot deck.kind. So that solves that. Basically, what we're going to have is and we're going to probably make a helper function that does this. I guess it could be just a static thing on mod manager or something. Probably is handy. Like get placeholder identifier, and we pass in like the card. We actually want to be able to pass out a deck identifier and a card identifier. So we need to be able to pass out two things. So maybe I'll just make it void and have two out parameters. So we need to pass in a card, basically. I think this is always going to be a card that these are for. Maybe it could be a definition, though. We'll try it with just a card. If we need to back it down to just definition, that's okay. And we are passing out a string, which is the deck identifier, card identifier for the placeholder. And like, you can just do hero 0. Let's go hero 2 this time. And then in here, we can do mod manager dot get placeholder identifiers, character card. We can do that in, yeah, in C#. You need C#7 to do that, so we need to. In C#7 you can just like declare it inline. And yeah, so here we can pass card identifier and deck identifier. And right, so this should be all we need to do here. And the logic for like which hero should it pick for this card can be localized, so other places can use that. Because there's going to be a lot of places, as we've seen before, where it actually, you know, when we're having it support mod graphics at all, there's a lot of places where it's looking up artwork, and so other places will need to have this kind of logic too, and you don't want to have it duplicated. Right, so now they all are using that, but you can see if we pull up like this, there's no graphic there because that place doesn't know to do this yet. So that's cool. So what we can do now is in Mod Manager, we can actually put some logic in here, right? So like based on, is it a villain, right? Is it a hero or whatnot? Right, so if card is, I guess if it's a villain card, just thinking of like there's different ways we can approach this. Because basically what we're going to do for the cutouts is like there's going to be like probably, there's like 3 different heroes and, you know, probably 2 or 3 different villains. There's also going to be like art for ongoing cards, like card art as well. So we might need to pass more information about the context of like what we're looking for. But yeah, basically, and what I want to do is like have it randomize which one it picks, but make that be a stable selection. So like it's always going to be the same result for a particular card identifier. So you can be sure that, you know, at least that thing is always going to be the same thing. And actually, if we pass the card or card definition in here, we can also like look and see, like, once we add a way for you to specify what placeholder you want, we can do that. Okay, so, excuse me. So if it's I mean, we can do his hero. Yeah, I guess if it gets to this part, it's like an environment card. At this point, anyway. I don't know. We don't have environment cards yet. So we can. I'm just gonna sort of roll with it here, and we can refactor if it makes sense. So right now we don't have any villain art in there yet. So let's just do that. So if it's a hero, we know there are 3 hero options, and this can be like a constant or something, right? Hero placeholder options. All right, we want to use the unity, I think. Random. And this will return between 0 and 2. And then we can say the deck identifier is this, and the card identifier so this is going to pick a random one every time. So if we run this, we should see a different cut. Like, they might be the same because they might be, but if we run it a few times, we should see differences between things. Right, so correctly we don't see a villain one because it's trying to find like a file called villain 0 or whatever, and that's not there. You can see for bunker it chose 0, and for microencoder it chose 2. If we run it again, we should get different results. Well, not if it's the same, it's not. It's like probably a 10% chance of it being the same, so it'll likely be different though. Yep, and so we got a different one there. But what I want to do is for that not to be, like, if you named your character something, it should pick the same placeholder every time. So to do that, we can actually give the randomizer a seed based on that. How do we set the seed? I think we call init state, right? So we need to find a seed based on the identifier of this card. And we could just use the hash code of the string, probably. That's probably fine. And so that means that given a card like wayward bunker character, right? That hash code is going to be the same every time. So this random number is going to be the same every time for that card. So if we run this, we're always going to get the same hash code because it's going to be the same string. So it's going to be random, but it's going to be stable for each card is the idea. So we can verify that. I mean, we can just know in our hearts that it's true. But here we got number 1 and number 2. And we should get that again. We'll try it 3 times to satisfy our curiosity. And those are the same. Fingers crossed. Looks the same. Cool. And we don't use the Unity. If you're wondering, like, oh no, you're changing the seed of the randomizer. This randomizer is not used for the game state, like the actual rules of the game. We use a separate random number generator for that. The Unity engine's random number generator is sort of free for all. We actually use it to, like, for the new game randomization. It's used like in other places, so it's not used. It's safe to do this, basically. I think so. I think we always, anything that has to do with the actual game. You can see in here, it's all like stuff that is for, static textures and stuff. Nothing that has to do with the actual game decisions. Even like the choose for me button or random button in like Oblivion mode, that uses the game, like the game engine RNG, because it's important in multiplayer that if you all press the random button, that everyone has the same result. Whereas this is more, visual stuff, and it won't affect anything else because it's not used at that low level. Cool. So we can say choose a random hero option. And we'll be doing the same thing for villains, so we can why don't we just throw that in there? And this is where I don't know if I want to like copy and paste this or like basically like do something a little different, but like maybe if it's a character card, then do something else instead of sort of duplicating this logic. Because this right now is only working on cutouts. It's not going to work for like ongoing cards and stuff like that, right? So we'll need to be expanding this. But the point of putting this logic in one place is that we can change this logic and it updates everywhere. So speaking of that, let's cover another case, right? The yes/no dialogue. So right now, that is not loading anything. We can just check that. And the goal would be that, because we're using that same logic, it should, if we pull up the yes/no dialogue that's showing this guy or her, it should be consistent, right? We shouldn't see a different character here. We should see the same one. So let's do the yes/no dialogue. If we click this, it's looking for the yes/no dialogue. Oh, interesting. I must have picked one of Ruduin's mods instead of mine, but it doesn't matter. It's still missing the file, so that's fine, whether it's my mod or Ruduin's mod. So similarly in this yes/no dialogue texture, this is where it's trying to do that. So So instead of just returning this, we need to check to see oop. If it's a mod, let's try using a placeholder. And it's going to be kind of the same thing. So we can maybe make a variable for this. And so we need this yes, no character coded file name to also similarly, I mean, this is not really, is this used anywhere that really, literally called in a couple places. I think it's fine if this just takes the string. We'll just change this one. It doesn't depend on anything else besides just the identifier. That's totally fine. Right, and yeah, here we're going to need to get the card identifier. Cool. And then we'll just update this to I don't know if this actually works for the Sentinels. Maybe it does. I guess it does because that seems to work. So then again, we want to call load texture with the placeholder path. Cool. So basically most of the calls should be sort of like this. It's the idea. I'll make sure we save any places that we changed. I don't even know what that code in UI Game View is doing. It has to do with keyboard shortcuts. It's weird that this is calling this file name path here in keyboard shortcut stuff. Don't know what happened there. All right, so now we get a yes, no, and it matches up with the correct one. And that's used for the actual yes, no dialog as well as that spots. That's why it's in two places there. Cool. So we're going to want to update these asynchronous ones, as well as this other version of the method that only takes definitions. I guess that's only happening in Deck browser, so not super necessary at the moment, but it is something we're going to want to handle, so we may as well. I don't know. Maybe if in the Deck browser, maybe we don't want to show a placeholder, right? Like if it's missing in the Deck browser. We definitely want to handle the asynchronous one though, because that's used quite a bit. So here, since this is a coroutine, we have to want to check. Well, let's see if, yeah, we want to call that again, basically. So basically here we can check if texture, it failed if this main texture is null, basically. So if that happens, then we need to try again. And so do the same thing. This doesn't need to be a variable, does it? And then we're just going to call this similar to what we're doing up here. Path, and we want to pass in the placeholder. And we don't say it's a mod because we're loading the placeholder. Cool. So these are all the those are all the cutout ones, I think, right? Then there's like start of game and other stuff too. Ending textures. So there's going to be a few places we need to do this. But I think that covers most of the in-game, which is a good point to probably commit this stuff. So, and then we'll look at what we want to do next. Cool. So yeah, so the other cutouts will load like once we get like low enough HP and stuff like that. Or like, so if we, I don't know what, yeah, basically if characters flip over or stuff like that. So we're not actually testing out by running this again, but I feel pretty good about that. So we can, I think, commit what we have right now. So yeah, we can commit that too. So, okay, so yeah, we're basically committing loading the placeholder. So support loading placeholder cutouts if not found for mods. Question about Gui's reasons. Can character portrait changes be triggered by things other than health thresholds? That is a question. I mean, they could be, but that's not what we support. I believe probably the deal damage action is responsible for saying that we should update the cutouts if needed, maybe. That's add modifier. Yeah, so if it's a hero character card, we update the cutout if needed. Or flipping is a different thing, right? But yeah, there's no, and Guys has a different one every turn, and that's a whole special Guys thing because Guys is special. That's totally different. But yeah, the idea of the damaged cutouts is a consistent thing across all characters. Though you saw, I think, there's a check to see if it's the Sentinels or something in here. Where was that? Yeah, this actually isn't specific to the Sentinels, but basically, if the maximum hit points is more than 15 and the current hit points is less than 10, we show the damaged one. That's the logic that's in there. So I guess we could potentially have some threshold that you could specify instead of having be hard-coded like that. That could be done. I'm going to take a short break. So, still haven't made a BRB. BRB. See, I told you be quick. All right, so let's get back to our Trello board. So hero cutouts are all good. I'm gonna add start of game, or sorry, I guess game intro and end game. I don't think we have graphics for those. Oh, we have start of game. Okay, so we could do that. What I actually want to do, though, because I think it's fun and interesting, is the color thing. If we can do it in the editor. So one thing I want to do, we're not going to have like that many options, right, for different graphics, but one thing we can do to differentiate different mods is, need the grabby. Where's this graphic? Hero panel. Cutout. Hero cutout. This one. Yeah. You can provide a gradient. And so we can randomly pick colors so that your hero gets like a gradient. Isn't that's kind of cool? And so one thing I'm curious is if maybe we can change it so the gradient can have a different angle too. Like this is using NGUI's code. The gradient must be part of this basic sprite, okay. And it's top to bottom. Yeah, and this goes just sort of, but I wonder if we could at least like switch between left, right versus up, down. Not 100% sure how this all works. We could just Google like NGUI gradient angle, horizontal gradient. Oh, this is actual Unity. I want it to be about NGUI, like only NGUI. Horizontal gradient. No. What's this? Ooh, fancier gradients. Extension for NGUI. I mean, it doesn't really change a whole lot, does it? Maybe that was before the gradient function was added to NGUI. These are people just sort of doing it themselves. So yeah, this is a potential way we could just like update this is supporting 4 corners of gradients instead of just Yeah, that lets you have diagonal gradients or other things. That's kind of, I think that makes it more interesting, right? I don't know that I want to make a subclass because I already have these. Well, I guess the cutouts are only in a couple places, and we could replace the UI texture. This is just on Sprite, but we're using UI texture here. Okay, so something to think about. Let's just start with doing the vertical gradient first. So what we can do is, I think it can be all in this function. So instead of this, let's call placeholder info. And maybe instead of like having a whole bunch of out parameters, we can have an object that we pass back. That might be more useful, right? I think, because they're gonna be like also pass back like gradient colors. Maybe that's it, but it's still like becomes a little heinous to do that. So where are we? Let's find a spot where we're doing that in here. So yeah, instead of having all these out parameters, we can just have like an object. Or a struct at least. And then we would like set the textures top color gradient. So the UI texture, where do these properties come from? We were just looking at. We don't get to set them and they're protected. Why don't you? It's only allowed to set them in the editor? It's annoying. Guess we'll have to change that. Why would they do that like that? It's weird. Like, let me set it at runtime. We have our own edits on these anyways, so we can just add in. I don't know what's the order. What order makes sense? I guess we could just have different parameters for different things. How do we like, when does this get updated? I guess just whenever it fills. Well, we can just test this out and make sure it's going to work in here. Here, have the gradient. Yeah. Okay, so that works to do it at runtime. By adding a method. So, interesting. So we could override, we could make our own subclass of UI texture. I found it's been really annoying to try to subclass Gui stuff because they have a lot of private members and stuff that you end up having to change it and make it protected anyways. And I don't want to necessarily change this because we do use things with gradients already, and then that will screw all them up, I think, if we change them. Yeah. Interesting. So this fill is actually where are we getting our colors? Like originally. This add vertex colors. So it's just using, right, if it's 0 and 1 are like the different bottom corners and 2 and 3 are the top corners. So we could easily support having more corners. Do we have any Handelabra edit section in this? Let's just add that. This seems like an easy way to do it, right? So I think actually yeah, okay. Let's do this. It's just when we're merging Gui stuff, it helps. I'm just gonna put it near where we're changing. Yeah, so they're literally just right in here is where so I don't think we need to worry about serializing these. So we're going to add 2 more fields, which is top, we'll make them nullable. Sorry, I guess these are both going to be, they're going to be bottom right and top right. set they are used. Sorry, I don't like top right. Cool, so then we're changing this. So if it's 0, it's just always going to be bottom left. I assume 0 is the left. Could be wrong, but seems likely. 1 is bottom right. So basically if, well, I guess we can say M gradient bottom right get value or default, and if it's not defined, uses the other one. So this will keep any existing stuff from, you'll make sure existing stuff still works. And then we can do the top left and top right. Top, right, get value default, top. Cool. So this should do nothing if these are null. Is the idea. And then, but we can provide these if we want. So let's just run this, and it still should work fine for anything. I don't know where there must be something that has a gradient somewhere in the game. But if we continue, at least the one that we're specifying here will have, yeah, the red and green top to bottom, still no problem. I'm trying to think of where might have a, I guess we can just like set one here. Right, that works. That's just using the built-in properties, so that's fine. So now let's go back to our override here. So we start with, what was it? Bottom left, bottom right. Top left, top right. So, yeah, bottom is color 0. Bottom left is colors 1. Oh, I think that needs to be set as, oh, right. M gradient, bottom right. And then 2, 3. Top and top right. And actually, we type params, we can just like call it as varargs. So then we don't have to do that. We can just be like, so now this is, the first is the bottom. Hey, look, my helpful helpful thing. Top left, let's make the top blue and yellow. So now we should get a 4-color gradient happening, I think. Cool. Well, something happened. Just want to change it to a white texture. So I can see what's happening. Interesting. So that didn't get to the result that I wanted, right? We ended up with blue on the top and green on the bottom. Totally. Where I'm expecting not that. There should be some red and green at the bottom, right? Just like turn off the other stuff. Oh, well, I guess that's the rounded bottom version. Doesn't really matter. White square. Did I do something wrong? So, passing in red, green, blue, yellow. Should be red at the bottom left, green at the bottom right, blue at the bottom left, and yellow at the, or sorry, top right. So, but we're getting just the right colors, right? This can go away. We're getting red and blue, so the left ones are coming through. But actually, that's not what it's showing in there, too. Oh, what have I done? Did I screw this up? No, we're not using X. Did I? Maybe I screwed up the logic here a little bit. Where is this used? We're not using the X. This is passing 1 1 1 2 2 2 2 1. So it's actually never using 0 or 3 for the simple fill. Parameters are not documented, so I'm not really sure. What? Oh, I guess these are all like, yeah, they were on the screen, so I wasn't going anywhere. But this method, for example, is using the sliced fill and whatever that's passing more. So I'm not sure what the X and Y means then. Well, I mean, obviously the X was never being used. So that's interesting. So I think what we want to do is actually use that X, because it wasn't being used before, right? It was just only basically, I wonder if these are like 2 and 3 mean the top half, 0 and 1 mean the bottom half for like slicing and stuff. So basically, like if y less than or equal to 1 and x is less than or equal to 1, that's the bottom left. I think that's the logic. We'll try it. So, and if x is greater than or equal to 2, we're going to do this. I guess it's else. And then we can duplicate this and change it up. It's a good way to make an error, but greater than or equal to 2, top left, and top right. Yeah, I think not using X was the problem there. Let's try it. If it all doesn't work, then maybe we'll just not have the 4 values, but it seems like if we can do it, it seems like a nice thing, and why not? That looks like more colors. That looks like kind of what we want. Let's have a better look at it. By choosing white squares. White square. Render it. Nice. Look at that. So that's what we wanted, right? Let's go to our right. So red was in the bottom, red and green in the bottom, red, green, and the top was blue, yellow. Cool. So with those 4 values, you can do all kinds of stuff by saying, like, if you put it to be like all green on the right, for example, by doing like this, you can get some different effects, basically. It's not like you can't do everything, but you can get certainly a lot more variety than just 2 colors in a vertical, and you can definitely do like horizontal gradients and diagonal gradients this way. You can't like specify exactly everything you want, but yeah, so here, I mean, no, it's hard to see, but you can see it's all green on the right, and then 2 colors of red and blue, I guess, still on the left. But we could say it goes like from blue on the left to even like white on the right. You get one kind of effect. Let's try some different ideas, and we'll add in the randomization. Yeah, so we get like a blue going to white. And the diagonal gradient is what I'm interested in too. So if we have like, I'm never gonna remember the order. Bottom left and top right should be the same. So let's go like, where we go? Blue here, and then let's put like pink No, there's no pink. Magenta. We should get a diagonal effect, which I think will probably be a nice, like it's nice. Diagonal is like just nice for like action. So that's kind of what I was hoping to be able to do with this. You get like some indication of lighting, right? So it's obviously like these are like primary colors, so they're very strong, but there's an idea of having the diagonal color. Cool. So let's make the colors random. So yeah, so part of that is this thing not returning like out variables, but returning some sort of struct or class. And I think we want to probably make a new file for that now that it's getting to be a bit more. So let's go to our scripts and we'll make, maybe we'll just make a new thing called placeholder info. And it doesn't need to be mono behavior. It does need to be in our namespace. Bring that back over here. Yeah, so we can actually just make it like the constructor. And we'll make these properties. So make it the constructor, right? That seems fine. All right, and these other properties can be in here. And then we can go color. Which will just be null. Yeah, so character cards need colors. I don't know if other cards do, but maybe I guess any card can have colors. Choose random colors. We can mirror this info here and say, oh, we can say this dot colors. Yeah. This dot colors I equals new color, or we can say unity dot random dot color, right? What? State? Why are we not giving me? There's a random color. Random dot color HSV and alpha ranges. Yeah, we can actually give it like parameters. Why would you not let me like do that? Yeah, do that. These can now say info, new, placeholder, info. And this can say info.card identifier, info.deck identifier. We don't need to have these variables anymore. Info.colors. Nice. Yeah, we'll do the same kind of thing here. This is just the same exact thing. And we'll set the gradient. Probably best we did this first, actually, because we don't have to change so many of these. We might have to like reset the gradient now in some cases, because it might be reusing the same texture for different heroes or stuff. Maybe we'll like, at the start of these, I'll like clear the gradient. I think we're good here, unless we didn't save a file. Can make sure. Looks like we saved our files. All right, so we got random colors. They're kind of dark, but they are they're different, right, between the different things, and they're consistent, like that greenish ugly color that was chosen here. I think we want to put in like a limitation on the heat, the saturation or something, so it doesn't pull up like colors like that. Right, I was wondering if it would maybe. Right, so here it's creating a new instance of that, but I'm wondering if like in Oblivion mode, when you change heroes, if it might like stick you with the wrong. I think it'll just reuse the colors on the texture, so we probably want to have a function to like reset the gradient. I'm just going to add that because I think it's going to come up. Reset gradient. I guess we can say maybe we'll pass a parameter here, and then if you don't pass, do this. So we can just turn it off. So then the other place that's calling it is going to be wrong. But we can put like texture set gradient false. Unless there's places where there are gradients that are supposed to be there. We'll see. I think maybe in the start game there are gradients, but I think that might be, I don't think it's a gradient on the textures. I think it's another texture that's over top that's darkening them or whatever. We can check that when we're doing that. All right, so if we resume this, we should see the same terrible colors that we just saw. It's like, oh, what a bad demo. Our colors are beige and brown and light green. Well, this isn't mine. This is Bunker Full Salvo. So maybe it's appropriate. There's also Microencoder got a cool color though. You can't see all the colors in the inspector here, but oh yeah. So one of the colors is black, which I feel like maybe that's not great, right? I don't like if they all randomize to be like black and black, it might not be very visible. Like we want browns and we want colors, but we don't want just complete silhouettes. So I think we want to probably put some limitations on this. So this color HSV takes some parameters or some overrides. So minimum hue, maximum hue, saturation mins and maxes, value mins and maxes, alpha mins and maxes. I wonder if some of these are being, they didn't look like they were being alpha. So let's just look this up. Unity random HSV. See what people talk about. Yeah, so here's some examples. So hue, saturation, value, if you're not familiar with what that is, we can play with the color picker here. Right, so let's get this. Get a color. I guess I could click on almost anything to get a color. But so, I don't know if we can make this bigger. I guess so. So there's a slider option here where you can change the hue, saturation, and brightness. So hue is like, what color is it? From like the colors of the rainbow, basically. And then saturation is like, how colorful is it? Is it really saturated or is it desaturated and more gray? Is it more colorful? More, like how much paint did you put on? And then brightness is, so saturation is almost like to white, and then brightness is darkness. You can see if you slide brightness, it turns all the colors down to black at the lowest, whereas desaturation turns all the colors to gray. So if you want full white, you turn up the brightness all the way and the saturation all the way down, you get white. What we want is like, so what we can do is like, say we want maybe like full brightness or like a range of brightness from like 75 to 100. We want our colors to be probably, well, not necessarily bright. We want them to be saturated, I think, for good effect, but definitely brightness. Like if you see, if we turn the brightness down too far, everything just gets really dim. So we want relatively high brightness, relatively high saturation. It doesn't have to be super high saturation. We could still have like pastels and stuff that you get with lower saturation. Everything doesn't need to be super saturated, but that's kind of the look of Sentinels, right? Is like more highly saturated. So I think sort of maybe 0.5 to 1 saturation, like 0.75 to 1 brightness, and then literally any hue is totally fine. Let's see what we get with those kind of values. So human, don't care. So I guess hue range is like that. Saturation min is, what would we say, 0.5. And value is the brightness. So say 0.75. And alpha has to be 1. We're not doing see-through. I mean, there's alpha baked into the images potentially, but not see-through placeholders. If you want to do that, you can always customize it yourself. We're going to make these images available for you to do that if you want to do whatever kind of adjustments to them. Cool. So that gives us a little more of a brighter image. This one still looks a little, well, I guess it's kind of green. Greenish pink. Not too bad. This is kind of a purple to green as well, but like different named characters are going to have different results. We could also do something like, say, instead of having like full random, we could say like pick 2 colors and then make a diagonal gradient with those colors or something. But let's just go with totally random right now, and we'll see if that ends up being okay. Part of the problem with having too many colors is that if you mix all the colors, you just get sort of grayish brown. And that's what we're seeing a little bit there. If we only picked 2 colors, it would be a stronger effect. So let's see if we say like, let's say like color A is this, color B is that again, or we could say like maybe it's like lighter at the top and darker at the bottom or something for like an effect. We could do something like that by tweaking these parameters. Maybe I'll have Jennifer come in and play around with this to see what makes sense. And then we could say like, instead of doing like full random, maybe I'll leave this. We could do the thing where bottom left and top right are the same. We do the diagonal gradient. So these 2 ones are color B. Then we get like a diagonal gradient. You can try that. And we could also reverse it based on hero villain turn so that it doesn't flip on the character. It's a good idea. So yeah, then we get a stronger, so the thing is, less colors make for a stronger effect, right? You could see before it was sort of all muddy because it was random colors mixing all together, but now we get this like really strong purple green effect. And whereas this is like a green yellow effect with that diagonal. I think I like that better, just having fewer colors. And you could do something like adjust each corner. Like I said, like the top could be slightly lighter, for example, or darker. So yeah, actually I think we want to pass in the deck definition dot this, and we want turn kind to be passed in here. Maybe not all the time. Well, it's an enum, so I guess, yeah, we can do this. parse the colors on different turns. I'm just going to put that as a to-do for now. So the hero looks consistent. But you can see, like, basically, the hero's like, front is green, then, like, we want that to be flipped over when they're facing the other way, right? So I'm just going to put that as a to-do for right now, but something to think about. Cool. So that's some random coloration. What do you think, chat? Does that look interesting? I feel like that gives a little bit of life to those things. Jake is on board. All right, so one thing I would like to do is, well, I'll look at the list. There's a couple things I have in mind. One of them is allowing you to control what the placeholder has. So, like, even if you don't want to create your own art, and even if you don't want to, like, modify these files, you could at least tell the game, like, hey, use, you know, these colors, or use this particular placeholder, which is pretty reasonable, and avoids, like, if you don't want to, if you're just going to throw the placeholder artwork in, then you may as well just use what's already in the game, right? And then there's also, like, more graphics we can hook up. So I'm going to first commit this, which is actually what I'm going to do first is commit specifically the NGUI changes, because these end up being hard to merge and stuff. So edit NGUI texture / sprite. Sorry, texture to support more powerful gradients. Yeah, hoping to set a placeholder color and a second choice for the shader. I'm not sure what you mean. Yeah, if you just want a fixed color, you can just set the same color to all of the 4 colors, basically. All right, I'm going to commit that separately, and then I'm going to say support dynamic colors for placeholder textures. Okay, I'm just going to be right back again for a quick break. Staying hydrated means gotta take a break every hour or so. Be right back. Okay. All right, so I was thinking, so many BRBs. So now we've got this to the point where it's going to load up cutouts. It's actually going to should work on villains. I didn't test that, but it's at the point where Jennifer can add in the villain cutouts here as well, and it should just work. Oh, I forgot my water. Be right back. But what it doesn't have right now is card art, which is pretty important. So, yeah, code integration is there. Color gradients, definition specifying the image and color. Yeah, so I definitely want to get to that, but I want to get to card art first because that's pretty important. Because right now, if you don't have card art in your mod, it's just a whole bunch of blankety blank, right? If I turn off this, and I turn off that, you don't see much. And so Jennifer has a few placeholders of card art that we can integrate in a similar way. But those use Sprite Atlases instead, so a little different. So you see all this like blank stuff. So I want to get those in too, so that we've got something there. So let's do that part, because basically what I want to get this integration to a point where Jennifer can just like start adding more into it, and that's part of that. So she did create some blank cards. So actually maybe let's download this folder. I don't think I have this in my Dropbox, so I'm just gonna like click the download button. And so yeah, we've got these. Some of them have like colors in them already. We'll probably go with like the black and white and then add the gradients in potentially, or maybe not. I don't know. But there's a whole bunch of different ones. So we'll throw a couple in and add a bit of logic in, and then we can iterate on them once the loading is working. So we have like regular cards and then also character cards. And so we're going to want to basically set up like Sprite Atlases in here and large card textures and the works. So I think large card textures are going to be the easiest thing to do first. So let's go to our mod folder. Where'd we go? Right here. Large card textures. And I don't know that one thing I'm thinking, are these going to be different between heroes and villains? So these aren't normally like arranged just like, I guess I can let me open up like Oblivion. These are arranged by deck. It's like Akash 3a, and then all Akash 3a's cards are here. And the Atlas is arranged by deck as well. So I'm wondering if it makes sense to have different, like we have 3 heroes. We could have 3 hero decks almost. Or just have a big mishmash of like potential cards. Probably the mishmash, right? Like there's no specific need for Hero Zero's cards to have. I guess you could have that character show up on the cards or whatever. But let's look at our code where we would decide to do this. So it's going to be in resource helper, large card textures. Yeah, so load full card texture, passed in the card. We're actually just have the logic to do the path up in here. Right, so basically instead of using the deck identifier for the path name, we could like just have it be one big folder. Just pass in like a, or like, yeah, if this fails and it's a mod, try again with a different path. So this doesn't have to need to be separated by decks like the cutouts are. I think it makes sense to have like hero and villain and environment separated out though. So like hero, villain, and what we're thinking is basically like types of cards. So we'd have like ongoing, equipment, target, right? So like, let me grab some examples and we can name them. Yeah, so Jennifer has some examples of like one-shots. So we call this like one shot 0. And one shot 2 or 1. We got an ongoing. These aren't final, these are just some ideas. Ongoing. Throw one of these in for equipment. Probably just like a couple for each, depending, like maybe like a couple more one-shots or whatever. And then if there's like literally anything else that isn't one of those types, maybe target. Something else that's more black and white. Circles. And this would be like other cards that aren't don't fall into those 4 categories of one-shot, equipment, ongoing, or targets. Jean-Marc is asking me a question. Right, so we got some hero cards. Environment cards would have like targets and other as well. I don't know. Just gonna throw in other 0, and I want to see the gradient, so I'm just going to duplicate some of these. Target 0. And then villain can have a 1-shot. Maybe I'll just copy these ones. Villain would have 1-shots, ongoings, other cards, and target cards. That's kind of, unless anyone shouts out, I think that's basically the type of typical cards you get, and we have other for anything that doesn't fit. So the idea is that just like the cutouts, we can, for any given card, we can randomly pick a card image for them, and it will make sense. So let's work on loading these large card textures, and then we'll do the atlases next. So we have this little script that will check and make sure that these assets have the right import types, and it will fix them up for us automatically. And let's just package it up so the game can see it. And we'll do the large card textures, and then we'll do the small cards afterwards. Okay, so back to here. So we need to, I think, deal with this function here. Oh yeah, and there's deck backs too. Let me just add a note. Card art full. Card art small, because those are loaded totally differently. Deck backs. We'd want to have some sort of deck back graphic. Character cards. I'll just note because I think we haven't made any for those. But those will load in the same way. Oh, right. And so actually those files are not padded the way they need to be. So they're not actually going to load right. These need to be like padded with black so that they're square. And they are not. Because I think Jennifer is just sort of setting them up, not preparing them to go in the game yet. So let's go and do that. You can do that with image magic. We have scripts for doing that, actually. Oh, Sentinels UI scripts. Make large art. I could use Mogrify. Let's just try using Mogrify and see if it does what we want. Mogrify edits an image in place, so it can be a little dangerous. Geometry. This. Gravity. Center. Crop. This plus 0 plus 0. I guess we should do a convert first to make sure we're doing it right. Gravity north, background black, extent 1024 by 1024, quality 90. that looks to be right. Okay. So then we should be able to modify. I think we just say this. Oh, maybe we need to do it this way. Yeah. Mogrify. What a great word. And then we'll go into heroes. And with Mogrify, you can just say star.jpg. And they all get Mogrified in the way that we wish. And the villain ones, great. And then they are all square, which is what we like. And we'll package those up. Okay. So now, having thought of that, we can actually load the textures. So this load full card texture is looking for the file. It's basically similarly to other places. If it failed, and it's mod. If it didn't succeed, and if the card is mod content, let's get the info. Let's get the path. So we're not using, we're going to use, instead of the deck identifier, it's going to be the card dot parent deck kind. So whether that's hero, villain, or environment. I guess it could be villain team. We'll see if we want to make we probably don't want to make separate ones for that. So maybe we'll do like card.parentDeck equals right. So if it's a villain team, it's just villain. Otherwise, it is what it is. And if we want to change that, we can change that. Okay. And then we call this again. And we pass in the placeholder. Sure. We always say we're not. Maybe foil. I don't know. Probably not. Doesn't hurt anything to pass that in. Actually, there's not gonna be foil There's not going to be foil placeholders, so I'm just deleting that. That's not happening. And then we can set the gradient. Well, let's do this first, then we'll do the color thing. So this should load a... All right, except right now it's going to be trying to load like hero character 0 or whatever, right? But we can... we can see what it's doing. With this, let's just see what it's doing. And then make those changes. All right, so if we right-click this, can't find worst card ever, but now we're going to look for large card textures, hero, worst card ever. Right, so actually, we don't want to be... Oh, interesting, yeah, okay, so we can use the placeholder info to give the deck identifier, actually. Because where we want it to be is large card textures, hero, and then like one of these names we made up, right? So what we want is to give info.deck identifier. Is that what we want? I think that's okay. The sprite name is info.cardIdentifier. And then we don't need this in here. This is going to be part of the placeholder info. Okay, so in placeholder info, right. We need to tell this that we want a cutout versus a card. So I think we want a new parameter here, which is cutout. Or I guess we could say is card art. I'll use is cutout. Because that's going to be different. So this is where we're like, if it's a cutout, we use this logic. If it's not, it's card art. And then we can say car.parentDeck.cut or is villain team villain. Otherwise, it's car.parentDeck.deck kind to string. Choose a card based on the type of card. So car.parentDeck is hero. We have one shot, ongoing, equipment, target, or other. If it's a villain card, this will include villain teams. One shot, ongoing, target, or other. Environment has target or other. And so, yeah, I guess we can just sort of do it as a dictionary of deck kind. And int. Sorry, we need like, then it's a, yeah. Cards are, I don't want to like look at the keywords. I want to like, I guess looking at the keywords is fine. If it has, there's a dictionary of decks, then to keywords, and like have a blank one for other. There's no like card kind that's going to cover this. I guess we could make our own little enum. That could work. I want it to be like static based on the definition, not like dynamic. So that's something we have to keep in mind. Like the artwork shouldn't change if like Caspit's Playground comes out or something. For example. Or if it becomes a target. Also another example. Would be neat, but that is not intended. So I have a dictionary of deck kind to another dictionary. I guess, right? Kind of a complicated thing to set up this way, but of, let's say, string and int. So what I'm doing here is, this is the card art options, right? Are we missing another? That's enough, isn't it? Card art options. New giant thing. So you put a giant dictionary of dictionaries. So the first entry is like deck definition dot deck kind dot euro. New dictionary. And each of these entries is like one shot, two, like basically that kind of thing. Yeah, if these are, it would be like convenient for these to match the file names exactly. So in here, like the word, I guess it's card definition, right? These are like the constants of, I guess one shot has a dash in it. One dash shot. I don't know if I can use card definition dot. Can I use a variable in there? I guess it, see if it likes it. It might not like it in the compiler. Oh, right. And then it's like, you didn't pass in your parameters. But I think it's okay. Let's go. Right. Not a cutout. Yes, a cutout. Yes, a cutout. Okay. Yeah, I think if we name the files after keywords, that's going to make just a lot easier in the code here. So, cool. Okay, so our compiler's happy with this. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use the literal keywords. So we have one shot, ongoing equipment, and other can just be like null. Oh, I guess there's also a target, which isn't a keyword. Like card dot is ongoing. I think just checks the keywords statically, right? Because this is the model, it's not the controller. No, why is it opening that from? Well, I guess there's lots of things called card.cs, isn't there, in our games? Yeah, just uses do keywords contain. Which, oh right, see that? That's checking. We can't call that method because that's relying on the state of the game. We have to directly check for the keywords anyways. All right, so what we want, unfortunately, I don't know if string is like, we could make like strings that are unlikely to be used as keywords. But we have two types of things that we want to cover that aren't keywords. Oh. I think we want to make our own enum. Card kind. So like other target one shot ongoing equipment. Is that it? So instead of string, we're going to use this. And then this is going to be like, what have you done? One shot. Guess we can do them in the order. Let's just do this. No, I hate when it does that. Why would you give me those two choices? That doesn't make sense. Right. So these are hero cards. These are the number of options we have. So this could be like looked up, but it might be hard to do from this context. So it's easier to just sort of hard code it in here because it's going to be fixed. It's not going to be variable. So right now we have 1 equipment and 2 one-shots and 1 of each other type. For heroes, and then for villain, we have 1 of each, but it's 1 shot. Yeah, there's no equipment card. And for environments, we'll just reduce. Just other and targets. And now our naming matches this enum, which is good. As long as something matches. So then we can say the card kind. Basically, if card.is 1 shot, all right, we need to say do keywords contain. We need to literally like call this and say even if face down, even if on the card. Yes, because the default is 1 shot property will not say true if the card is face down. Or under another card. So do keywords contain card definition dot 1 shot. No. Is this underscore? Kind equals card kind dot 1 shot. And then we just do a big else if here. Guess we could make like a mapping dictionary or something, but this gives us a little, like we need to like, it's not all about keywords, right? Like sometimes it's like, is it a target? Keyword ongoing. All right, we have to pass true, true. Oh, don't worry. The value assignment will be necessary. It's currently unnecessary, but it will be necessary. Equipment. Then those are the keywords, right? Ongoing 1 shot equipment. Else if card. And we can say ask it if it's a target, but that might not be reliable, but we'll check this for a second. We still have card. Oh, right, that's card.cs. Yeah, checks if it's or not under a card. So basically, if there are maximum hit points, but we actually have to check that the definition has maximum hit points, I think. Because I think do keywords contain actually checks. Oh, but it's checking it based on whether it's flipped or not. But that's not what we, is that what we want? I guess different cards can be different on different sides. But not between 1 shot and ongoings. Like that's not normal. Flipped keywords, that's for like character cards. I think we're okay there. Oh, I guess the other kind of card is character. But if it's a character card, we use this logic for the card identifier, right? So we need to Not normal would mean that. Well, you know what? If you want to do that and placeholder art isn't quite right, well, too bad. This doesn't care about the definition of like, is it a target? Is it if it has maximum hit points in the definition, or if it just has hit points? Yeah. Card.definition.hit points .has value. Otherwise, it's other. Right, so speaking of that, so if choose a random card identifier. So if it card is a hero character card, we're going to do this. I don't like copying and pasting this, but we're going to do that for right now. Else if card is villain character card, we're going to do that. And otherwise, it's a non-character card or something. And the options are, what did I name that thing? Card art options. Kind. Right? Oh no, it's right. So I'm gonna write deck kind. We didn't use that, yeah. Right, basically if the card parent deck dot kind is villain team, we replace it. Otherwise we just use it. We're not going to have separate art for villain team, same as regular villains. And then this can just be that. So index in by deck kind and then by card kind. Finally, choose the thing based on the kind and the number are in the option, right? Zero, one. First is the kind. So this will end up with like one shot, 0, or ongoing 1, or equipment 2, or whatever. Hello, Games for Life gamer. Hydrate. Sure thing. So all that logic just to pick a random a random thing. Cool. All right, so this seems like it might work. And it should even pick art for character cards, which we can throw in there. as well. We'll have to make some or just like stub some in. Hey, look, a one shot. Fortunately, all my cards are the same. Oh wait, I have another one. Punching bag. We don't have many options, so it's not necessarily a problem that they're the same. But it is deciding to use one shot one. So cool. Obviously, that's only in the large cards right now. Let's add character card art as well and make sure those are going to come up. So back here, we're going to add like hero, 0 character, and whatever. So I'm just going to have to make files for those. Maybe I'll just like really messily put some in. So well, what I can just do is take these and like rotate them. Yeah. So this can be hero, 0 character. Doot. Close enough. We can make the back. Doot. Here, 1 character. Can option R? Does that go? No. I need to press it. I don't know if there's a rotate. Oh, Command L to rotate left. Okay, guess that makes sense. We'll call this hero 1 character back. And I guess there's deck back, right? I'll want to do that too. Rotate left. Hero 2 character. Oh, that's the wrong side. I rotated left 3 times because I'm obviously silly. Hero 2 character back. This should cover our character cards nicely. Fix the assets. And run. Okay, and let's see if we get our character card art showing up. We should, because I put that logic in. Okay, and continue game. Hey, and we can even flip it over. So these are not like centered or whatever because the aspect ratio is not quite right. But then this one would have its own different art. Yeah. We're not doing the gradient on there yet, but we can throw that in. That would be just in here. And texture, set gradient false. Let's get our colors in. And I guess like there's probably could be different rules for character card, you know, cutout gradients versus card art gradients as well. There we go. Get that diagonal gradient on there. These are all the same card, so it's getting the same gradient, which is correct. But then if I look at my other card, it's different, but it's still a one-shot, so it picks from the same card pool. My character card actually has the same gradient as this because it's the same card identifier. I think that makes sense. Same thing for this, has the same gradient. So that's cool. You can see the gradient nicely there. It's kind of an interesting like bronze effect, that particular selection. Cool. All right, so those are large card textures. Those are looking nice. We don't have deck backs yet, so those are still black. But that seems pretty good. I just want to quickly fix this up because it's all like duplicating. So what I'm going to do here is check to see. I'm just going to do this first. So right, if it's a hero character card or if it's a villain character card, we can do that right here. And it's only if it's a cutout that the deck identifier is different. Yeah, we might want to do different stuff for team villain cutouts potentially. Maybe not. They're kind of they're very similar and samey. So maybe we'll do this. We'll basically just ignore team villains. Villain team art is the same as regular villains for placeholders. If that changes, we can do something else. But so not organized by deck, but by kind. Organized by deck. Right. So then in here, all that this needs to do is change to be and actually, yeah, that's right. We still need the. Do we still need the is cutout? Yeah, we still need the is cutout. Maybe. Because here we can put in the deck kind. Oh, right. We need to have, right. I see why, because that option. Basically this. Right. Int. What we can do is this. We want to find out like what's the maximum number of options. Right. What have you done? And then we can do this. Just say, I think that's an error, right? So we don't really have other cutouts. I think that should pop up, but we'll see. then we can just get rid of all this. Oh, right, we're already choosing the option up here. That's not good. We want to keep, yeah, that's all mixed up. I guess all of this stuff is like choose one random number based on a number of options. So we can do that all up top. Getting kind of messy. So if it's a cutout, yeah, if it's a character card, we do this other thing, right? Like this part. So basically, if it's a hero character card, there are X number of options, which is this. If it's a villain character card, the number of options is this. Otherwise, it's all this. Based on the kind of card. Then we can call the random number generator once. I mean, we are only calling it once, but there's a lot of calls to it that makes it harder to tell what's going on. And then I think after that, we can say right, we kind of have, oh yeah, we also have this, yeah, because we're doing things like twice and then getting the number and then interesting. So we're sort of saying we'll just do this logic again, but then so if card is hero character card or card is villain character card, which is different than saying if it's a character card. It's interesting. If it's this, then the identifier looks like this. Deck kind and option. So like hero 1 or villain 1. Otherwise, right. Otherwise, this needs to be set here. We need to other, start it off with other, then we can get rid of this. All right, this is a lot, but I think it card kind. Oh, I guess it's just kind. Sure. And then that replaces all of this. Okay. So basically, we use this first section to say how many options do we get to choose from. We pick one. Then we do the random number generator, and then there's two different formats for character cards versus non-character cards. Unless we add a card kind dot, or we add a character to this. And then this simplifies a little more, doesn't it? We can say, well, it doesn't really. We could just say like, no, it doesn't really. I'd just leave it like this. This seems fine. Let's make sure I didn't break everything. We could add a card kind character and use that, but I don't think it's necessary there. So our cutouts still load, and this still loads, and that. So everything is fine. Cool. Yeah. So that's nice. Just wanted to clean up that code so it's a little easier to discern. We can add a little bit of figure out how many options for placeholders there are based on the type of card. Choose a random option, and then the identifier depends on the type. Cool. All right, so that is great. So I'm going to see what I changed. Yeah, loading large card textures. Awesome. Load placeholder large card textures. And while it's here, the deck back is like right next door, right? It's this. Which I think we can probably do. So same thing, basically do something like this. So yeah, there's none of these. Right, so placeholder info. Yeah, that's interesting. We're looking for a deck back, so we actually need maybe another property on this to say give us the deck back. Or set it to the deck back instead of because actually, yeah, the color of the deck back should not be fixed by the card identifier, right? So that's actually different. It's actually kind of different. So maybe I'm going to not do that right now. Let's do the small. I think more importantly than the deck back is the small card artwork. So let's put a pin in that because I think it's not hard, but I'd rather move on to the atlases because I think that's more important to have immediately. Because then we get all these things could have the placeholders. So deck backs will wait, but yeah, it's a little different because the deck back colors should be consistent on the deck, not on the card. Or that would be really strange if all your cards had different back colors. And actually, we have there's a color specified for the deck, so maybe we just use that instead of randomizing it. Gotta stretch, gotta move. All right, so blah 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 atlases. So we weren't able to find the atlas. So let's go and see where. There's a couple things that we're not using here. Atlas. Load Sprite Atlas for a card. Right, so this load Sprite Atlas is interesting because this is a little different. What it will do is it will set the sprite name later, I think, right? Sprite name equals sprite name. Yeah. So it's actually here in UI Card View Factory, there's more going on with small cards than with full cards, because we might have to switch the atlases because of foil. Then we set the sprite name and we add micro if it's a micro card. So there's a few different things going on here. So it might be at this level that we want to, because I think, is this like the only place where the sprite name gets set? Might be the safe place to do it. Looks like this is in the new game screen, and this is also in the new game screen. So, and actually this is just setting it to a fixed fixed sprite name, and this is just for the deck back. So this is the place where this sprite is being set, and so this is where I think we need to do it. So I'm just gonna take another quick BRB, bathroom break, and we'll get to that. We're being very productive. Jake asks, is it possible to make a deck with different deck backs based on the card? You can do that by making sub-decks and having cards be from a different deck. But the same deck would have the same back. Like a card from the same deck would have the same back, but if you wanted them to be different, you could make sub-decks and then, as part of game setup, shuffle them all together. You could do that. For example, the title deck in Karga Warfang, or the Eon Man, Scion deck, the Oblivion decks, which don't get mixed together, but there's no reason they couldn't be, right? If your code wants it to happen. Right. So yes, small cards use Sprite Atlases, as we know. And so, let's see what happens when we actually see these. I think we have some cards in this game that have sprites. Fanatic. So if we look at like one of these small cards, it's in a sprite instead of a texture. Actually, that's not the right thing. Well, I mean, all the other graphics are in a different atlas, but this image is coming from Fanatic Atlas, which actually coming from the it's not in this project. It's coming from a asset bundle, but you can see all the sprites that are in that atlas for each card. If we want to make an atlas, basically, so that for the placeholders, that works like this. And as we were saying, this is the place in the card view factory where we use the placeholder. Yeah. So where we set it up. So basically at this point here, we need to check, did we find, and here, I mean, yeah, basically, right? Like it checks to see, did it find the graphic? So this is one level higher than we were in Resource Helper, but I think like it needs to be here where because of the sort of two-step nature of Sprite Atlases, it needs to be here. And card u.card is mod content. Basically, throw in the same little comment we've been putting, which is placeholder. I think anyway. I guess code success is nullable. It's not true. The thing is, I don't know that this load Sprite Atlas method. Oh yeah, you can pass an expansion identifier. Okay. So we can do what we need to do. So this method, we could do the same thing in here and check to see, because this doesn't actually check to see, but I guess the thing is that this method doesn't really know the exact sprite name, whereas back here the sprite name might be different, right? It might have micro, it might talk about, I guess it's only, yeah, it's this get sprite name, which could be like a bunch of, it could still, yeah, it could be different things. And the resource helper doesn't care about the sprite name because that's not the asset that it's loading is the entire atlas. Versus the texture, in the texture case, like the asset literally is that one asset for that card, whereas the Sprite Atlas covers lots of cards. So that resource helper doesn't care what sprites are in it, whereas this one does. So yeah, so I think this is what we want to do it here. So, but we'll use a similar code by getting the info. Let's just put these next to each other. It's not for a cutout. We might have to do a little more, we'll see. So what if we do resource helper developer load Sprite Atlas. Card view.card image. And right, we have to give it a path. Resource helper.placeholder as a identifier. So here we need to like get the path. Yeah, it's basically this version. Because we're not using the actual card, we're using the placeholder info. Info.deck identifier. Okay. And then we just do this again. Basically. Right, and the sprite name needs to be different. And if we use the sprite name again, info.card identifier. Let's try this. Well, we'll try it, but there's no file, so it's not going to find anything, but at least we'll see if it's looking for the right thing, right? That's how we started before. It's still going to fail, but it might fail in the way we want. All right, so placeholder is Atlas/Atlas0. Well, that's for the baddies. Let's see, but for this, right? Can't search the console in this version. What if I just look at the thought bubble? We'll probably, yeah, it should try to find. That's the yes no dialogue. And we're looking for. Oh, right. But it's still trying to find that placeholder. Yeah, the placeholder is not getting. The deck identifier not coming up. Yeah, I think we just need to build our string here. Where do we go? Because the deck info, why would that placeholder info, the deck identifier should be based on, oh, you know what? I deleted that. Did I delete the line that sets that? How is everything else still working? I guess because asset bundle stuff doesn't really care about the path. Whoops. Basically, the deck identifier depends on whether it's a cutout or card art. It's funny, it still worked even though the deck identifier was blank. We can do this. Deck kind option. Actually, I guess it's just like deck kind. Yeah. Now we should get like a reasonable log. I don't know if it's correct, but we'll see. Might be just like, yeah, like hero Atlas 0. That seems fine. Yeah, Atlas / villain Atlas 0. Like that's a path that makes sense to me, not Atlas / Atlas 0. Okay, so back in DLC land. So, well, if you look at Oblivion, for example, we've got Atlas / deck identifier Atlas 0, deck identifier Atlas 0, or in few cases there's Atlas 1 because there's more, it's too big to just have. And this is the Scion thingies that come across. There. Oh no, these aren't. These are the little inset images on Scion cards. They're a thing. Extra artwork to deal with on those cards. So anyways, yeah. So these are all made up of. Oh yeah, and the splash art. That's what I was thinking of. These are of course all made up of small images that are put together in one, just like you make your Sprite Atlases, there's a way for us to make them in Unity in basically a prepared way instead of loading them up at runtime. So we need to make an atlas like this, I think, for the placeholder artwork. So using these type of files. So what we'll do with these is we will make a source images folder. It's kind of the first step. So the source images don't get into the build, but we need them here to be able to create the atlas within Unity. So we're using this inside Unity instead of using Texture Packer or whatever. So, oh yeah, so this needs to be in this folder. Source images and create folder, small card art, and microcard art, sure. And then inside there's like folders, but there's just going to be, there's not like per deck ones. We just have hero, villain, and hero, villain, and environment. Just like matching up with our organization of the large card textures here. Microcard art, I think, is, yeah, the same way. Let's just do this. All right, so let's add the hero ones in. So I already modified those, which means that I can't change them again. Well, you could crop them back, I guess, but we can just like grab the same files that we used. Might be annoying. This one is equipment. So yeah, what we can do is just get the files in there how we want. These are just like samples, and then Jennifer's gonna like do it properly, but this was equipment 0. I wonder if I can just like undo what I did to those files. I could probably write a script to do them up, but let's just do, I'm just gonna do a couple of these. I'm not gonna do all of them. I'm just gonna do like the one shots and that equipment card since I already did it. One shot one, it's like that one. And let's go into that folder. And we have another script called make small art. So like this can like use a folder like this and convert them all to the right sizes and stuff, but I'm just sort of doing it ad hoc here. Let's just see if these are the right size. 256. 98. by 177. Okay, we'll use the same. Dash geometry, 256 by 198. Gravity, center, crop. 0 plus 0. All right, that's the size we need. You can see it's like slightly cropped. I don't think these files are in the right aspect ratio to begin with, which is why it didn't quite do the right thing. So then we can just do modify. And get these files to the right size. Oh, did that? That's not what I wanted. All right, now they're little. We got our 3 files here. And now we want to make an Gui Asset, or Sprite Atlas. Gotta open the Atlas Maker. And we're making a new one with these 3 files. I don't remember that. I think we put like 3 pixels in between typically. Make it square. Okay. Let's create it. I gotta make a folder for it. Atlas. Oh. Create. And we'll call it Hero Atlas 0. Okay. And now there's our file. Here's our atlas. We got equipment equipment 0, one shot 0, one shot 1. And we run our little script. It'll be like, that is the wrong texture type. So we can run the fix script on it, and it makes it no alpha, compressed properly and stuff. So let's run this, or build this, and go and see if it should load for the one-shots, right? Based on what it's doing, I think. So let's see. Hey, look. We've got our lovely placeholder artwork for worst card ever. This one shot is probably looking for one shot. I think there were 31 shots. How many do we have? Well, we can look and see. This one is picking up the other one. Oh, but it's looking for the villain. There's no villain atlas yet. So that's why there's only the hero atlas. So that's cool. We're getting that. That seems nice. So why don't we... I think basically that is like... That worked very easily. But I also want to add in the gradient color. So that should work to load up the villain atlases too. Like that, all of that. The reason why I put this logic in here is because that was literally the one place where small card art gets picked up. So that is pretty nice. And we'll add in the character card ones too and stuff. So we'll populate all those basically before we ship this out. I do want to look at the gradient thing, right? So this is using UI Sprite, which is also descends from UI Basic Sprite. Oh, it's right here. And I think we just need to basically do the same thing to UI Sprite to give it... I guess I could have put this on that. Maybe I'll do that. That would make sense. Instead of copying it. The other code you see there is like for our memory management. Because I think the only thing I changed in the UI texture was this. Let me just discard the change from here so it doesn't have any white space changes or anything. So yeah, basically just move the method from UI texture to the base class since we need it for UI Sprite as well. So yeah, it's in here. That should be still happy, right? Doesn't yeah, but UI texture, like, did I forget to save this? Doesn't UI texture descend from UI Basic Sprite? Yeah. So if I have a method on UI Basic Sprite, unless this is another class down here. Hey, wait. Oh, did I? Oh, no, UI 2D Sprite. Okay, this is on the wrong file. That's on the wrong file. It needs to be on this file. Yeah, let's just put this in here so it's all together. That's what I was... Very similar class names. I was fooled. All right, so then in this place, we can say card view dot card image dot set gradient true. Just turn off the gradient if there is no mod stuff happening. Cool. Look at that. Small card, big card, artwork match. So one thing I was like, oh, well, you know what I could do is pull up the cauldron that already has tons of different content. And just like, oh yeah, I don't even have any of the artwork. So make a game with cauldron stuff and you should see all the placeholder stuff pop in. And that would be cool. So I'm gonna make a new game with, I know a lot of it's still gonna be empty because I don't have art for a lot of the stuff. In there, but we should at least get an idea of some of the variety of like different types of cards and stuff in the full cards. We don't have a lot of them in the small cards. So here's 3 heroes with some different gradients. That's cool. And we got, so these are, let me just maximize this. 2 different one-shots. Here's some different cards. And the nice thing is every time you pull up, so some of them are still black because we didn't put in ongoings and whatever. And with more options, so every time you load it, it's going to be the same for this card, right? These cards are going to be like consistently whatever they are. So even if they're, you know, there's going to be limited options, but like the amount of combinations between the number of arts and the number of color combos should really help, I think, until you get artwork in for your cards. So there you go. It's a nice variety. And this is all obviously not finalized and probably won't be for a while. But yeah, very cool. And the villain, nothing in the small card because we didn't set that up, but the full cards have our thingies. And character cards. It's cool. I think that is looking great. The environment is still just like blank gradients. We might put in some environment backgrounds. We haven't decided yet that for sure because we already have these sort of blank backgrounds as an option that just work already. But we'll consider that potentially as well. Great. So that is pretty cool. So I'm just gonna commit these things as part of the ngui change. Move, I'll just prefix ngui change, move set gradient method to UI basic sprite. So it can also be used with sprites. Cool, and then, yeah. Load placeholder images, or load placeholder, excuse me, Sprite Atlases. Awesome. All right, so card art full, card art small. I mean loading them. They haven't been all like put in. I guess that's not checked in terms of making them. Deck backs Yeah, that's another thing. So let's see. Probably have time to look at that. Before I'm just going to go to the placeholder repo and make sure I add some sample files. Yeah, it's going to make these meta files for folders that don't exist yet, and then Unity will delete them when Jennifer... Yeah, maybe before I commit this, let's make sure that those things don't disappear. Let's just add some other... I'm going to just add the basic... I'll just set up the atlases here so that it'll be easier for Jennifer to do that. So they don't need to match, like they don't need to be accurate. So I'm just going to grab whatever and put one in each. We'll call them other 0. Oh, that was micro. Other 0 and other 0. We'll run the Mogrify on them. To make them the right size. We'll add the microcard art because why not? I wonder if I can just do this. There's a make micro art. Micro art is 108 by 108. And it actually like converts it from the small card art. So it might actually just... Oh yeah, that's not gonna totally work because of the other structure is heroes, villains, environment / deck. But we can just sort of do the same thing with Mogrify. So stop. Let's grab the hero. Just doing this kind of off the cuff. So, oh yeah, and they have to be called micro because they get put in the same atlas, so they have to have a different name. All right, where are we in here? Resize 108 by 108. Gravity. Center. Looks like a little square. So we'll just do the same thing. Modify. Oh, gotta tell it what files. Okay. Hero. Villain. Okay. Now we got some little square graphics in microcard art, so those folders have something in them. And so what I'm going to do actually is make the atlases for villain and environment, and then we have some scripts that can just like update them whenever you put new files in. So that'll make life a lot easier. So let's go open the Atlas Maker again. And we will make a new atlas with environment. Environment Atlas 0. And we'll make a new Atlas with villain. And I'm not putting the microcard art in here yet, but it will be added in by this automated updater. Villain Atlas 0. And we can fix up their compression. Cool. So obviously these atlases are kind of silly. They just have one graphic in them. But so we have these. Where are these? Yeah. Update. Okay. So I'm just going to change this to say update hero. Delete. We don't need like these. This is just copied from Oblivion, so it has a bunch of other stuff. So I wonder if this will work, because it's if I just make this blank and call this hero, will that work, or the script might need to be updated a little bit? Because we don't have a folder structure the same way. Let's try it. Let's run this action. Yeah, so it doesn't like that. We might have to just update the script a little bit. We have this. This is in our automation thing we use called Udimate. That's no longer available because it doesn't work in current versions of Unity. Right, so here we're looking at like right, so instead of editing the script, we can just literally specify exactly what we want. Includes, I don't know if we have to put the full path. There's an example over here. Yeah, we do kind of have to put the full path. Okay. Can we make this bigger? Yeah. Source images / small card art. If you use these properties, like it tries to like figure out exactly where they are, but we're using a slightly different way. /hero /star, and also microcard art. Let's run this. You must specify. Oh, right. It actually, like, you have to actually pick the atlas that it goes to. That's most important. Sure. That is the first thing that was wrong. But I just figured the rest would also be wrong. So what this does is it like turns off the texture compression and then rebuilds the atlas and then puts the texture compression back on, because if you don't, then Gui gets precious about it. So yeah, those micro images are in there now, which is great. And then we can just duplicate this for the other ones. There's only going to be the two. Well, there might be, yeah. There might be a new game atlas, I guess. So this is going to be environment atlas 0, and this is going to say environment /star, and this one is going to be the villain atlas, and say villain /star. All right, and there's a plan that runs all of those. I guess update atlases. I'm just going to say to update all of them. Utimate. Where's your plan editor? It's like a nice visual way to do build scripts and stuff. But unfortunately, it is kind of deprecated because of it requires the JavaScript support, and this is referencing stuff that doesn't exist anymore. That's why it's all blank. Maybe I'll just make a new plan. Automation plan. No, it's at the top. Update atlases. And you can just like drag and drop. Hero, environment, villain. Boop, boop. Yeah, this our main build scripts actually use this too, and you can like do all these kind of nice things. Like you got like some comments in there, notes, and you can have like this is like a loop. You can do lots of stuff. All right, so let's run the update atlases plan that we just made. We update hero, the environment, and update villain. And let's take a look. Our environment's got that. We can just make sure it's got both, yeah, that and the micro sprite. Villain one doesn't. Why not? Did I screw something up? Maybe. Oh, I sure did. I put a 0 instead of a star. You can always just run this, make sure everything is up to date. And yeah, there's the villain atlas, how we expect. Cool, and then we also have another plan to package it, which we don't need to do that on iOS and Android here, but that's fine. Okay, so now this is set up more for Jennifer to be able to go in and like just add more arts and package it, and it will all work just fine. There's also, some more potential placeholder stuff. There's going to be end game images, potentially environment backgrounds, as we said, and I think there's start of game. Yeah, villain cutouts. We haven't put any in there yet, but there will be some villains. And yeah, so mostly now it's getting all those graphics populated. Maybe placeholder music too. I'm not sure if we'll do that or not. Haven't decided on that. But yeah, so that is pretty good. So let's make sure everything is saved here. And now we can say add some sample files for card images, update, build scripts, basically. Cool, and Jennifer will add some more actual placeholders. These are placeholders for the placeholders. Tarek says, I recently got some of my friends into Sentinels. We've been playing a ton lately. Very cool. We like the individual boss themes that play in the multiverse menu. Is there an option that would make it so those songs play instead of the environment themes during games? No, there is not, and there is intentionally not. Those songs are the villain's victory music that play when they defeat you. They are very short, and they are not meant to be played on loop during gameplay. Feel free to try if you want using the soundtrack. Other people have done so and came back to me and said, "You were right. Those shouldn't be played on loop while playing." The environment music is around 5 minutes, and so it is long enough to loop without driving you crazy. The 30 seconds or so of villain music at the victory screen is not meant for that. But feel free to do it with the soundtracks if you like. They are available, and you can repeat a 30-second loop at your leisure. So I'm going to push this up to the place and see what's up with my Sentinels. Yeah, just updated that. Guess I can push these up too. All right, so that is cool. So I guess we could go, actually, if we go back to our game, we should see that those small card arts should appear in that Cauldron game, most likely. As long as there are other cards in the villain or environment deck, which there likely are. We'll find out, I guess. Oh, maybe I haven't. I don't know if I don't know if I set up all the numbers right or whatever. Just get to a hero turn, so it's not doing all the start of game stuff, and we can look at stuff. Yeah, so those are targets, so that would be looking for like a thing called target, which isn't there. Oh yeah, but the environment, there are some other cards. So those are showing up from an environment atlas now. But those don't, you can see if I right click, it doesn't match because I just threw in whatever graphic. But apparently this villain is like all targets, one shots, and targets and one shots. So yeah, so there are no other cards in this villain deck, such as it is. So yeah, so that is man, that orange is nice. Cassie, you're looking great. Don't change that, Rujuan. I mean, we'll probably end up changing the randomization a little bit, but these have like these characters look really good. The colors that it picked. So that's something that we'll have Jennifer tweak as well. So those things are not necessarily going to be the same, but yeah. So I feel good about all this today. Hopefully you enjoyed watching me crunch through some programming. It's always nice when it's visual. So yeah, so basically we'll add another checklist here for integration. I think the hero cutouts are like done, so I'm going to keep that checked. I'll put these down here. So we still have to do yeah, this is an integration. I guess the end game stuff is part of villains. You need to integrate deck back images. Probably will integrate like include title label, like use deck's background colors. Yeah, no problem, Trix. It does come up from time to time. And that's a definition. I guess integration wouldn't support environment backgrounds yet. So yeah, so still a few more things to integrate, but we got to a really good point where a lot of stuff is integrated now, so Jennifer can add those in, and we can start getting it to a point where we're happy with it. So I'm not sure when that's going to come out, but we'll definitely pull it back up next Friday and see where we are. Because I don't want to put it out right now and have people like as it is, obviously it's like missing a whole bunch and stuff doesn't match and everything like that. So I want to get it to at least a point where it's got something for everything, and there's no gaps, and you can at least have some idea that the colors that it picks should be stable. They might not be, but we want to at least get to a point where we're happy with it enough that we can say these are the what the colors are doing, and then also the mechanisms you can specify the colors that you want. I could also probably have it print out the colors that it's using in the log, so that if you like the colors, you could like grab them and put them in for your own. So yeah, so that is looking good, I think. That's all for today, I think. Got started a little bit early, and I think we covered exactly what we wanted. There's still going to be more, obviously, development coming along, but stay tuned. Every Friday, we're doing these live streams of development. Jean-Marc is working on some documentation, so there'll be some more updates for the programming side of things soon. But yeah, things are moving right along, and it is going to be a good 2021 for Sentinels. So have a great weekend, everyone. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time. Bye.